Hi, everyone. Welcome back to What's New in 2023 with WGI. Again, I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Carlo, who's got a couple of things that he wants to share with you that you should be aware of going into the season.
As most of you know, I'm also chairman of the Color Guard Steering Committee, and so many of these new things come out of the steering committee. And so the ones we're going to talk about today have some element involving them. Something that's different that came out of the steering committee very early in the season, towards the end of last season. Well, we've been talking about it for several years that one of our original sins is that when we went paperless, you as instructors don't get to see physical representation of the scoring system through the sheet. You no longer get the sheets, you no longer get the judges' markings and things like that. And so then we relied on you going to the manual. And of course, that's a little more complicated. The language gets a little wonky and it's not an easy read. So fewer people went to that. We also had something in the back of the manual that referred to scoring and judging system FAQs, which I thought were really helpful, that were geared primarily for the instructor. Well, what the steering committee has decided this year is that we want to bring those tools back. The steering committee put together what's called an instructor packet, and you'll be able to access that instructor packet, and actually it's just going to be called Color Guard FAQs, by going through the resources and the drop-down menu. I think it gets you to articles, and you'll see that at the top of the articles, and they'll be placed in the coming weeks. But in that instructor packet, there'll be an FAQ on the system and scoring, which was very similar to the one that used to exist in the back of the manual. And then one specific to critiques, which is, since it's going to be a new thing for a lot of instructors, is going to be a very helpful tool. And then we're going to have one geared towards reclassification, which can be a very complicated situation, and also surprises a lot of instructors. And so people don't know that they need that information until they find that they need that information. So these resources, once they're up, will be available to you all season long. And along with that will be a link that carries you to a copy of all the score sheets. This is also going to be the focus on a lot of the training items that are going to happen here in the next couple of weeks, and then the first couple of weeks of the season. We're going to be referencing things that talk about the system, trying to bring us back into better literacy of the judging system by instructors, so that when you go into these new opportunities of critiques, you have the language and the skill set to be a little bit better prepared, and to be able to speak the language of the judge, which is ultimately established in the manual, which is our contract with how we instructors expect the judges to then judge. But I wanted you to know that this series of FAQs in your instructor packet is going to be available and should become your first resource if you ever have a question, or you come up to do a term, or a judge says something you don't understand, or if you just need clarification on a sheet, or if you happen to be one of those people that face reclassification. There is so much information in these packets. And then along that order, the steering committee has also wanted to make themselves a little more available to you in real time inside the season. We all know about the judge review form, which most of you use after the regional or after critique to talk to Curtis, our chief judge. But a lot of times judges can say things that are simple terms or common for them that instructors don't necessarily understand. And you may have a question where you don't want the angst to bother Curtis, if you will, or to throw it in that system where he actually goes to the judge, but it's just you're asking more for clarification, and it's something that maybe you didn't have a critique and you wanted to be able to ask someone. These steering committee members have so much experience, and so much experience in all classes. So we found a way for you to be available to them, and them to be available to you, and create a direct contact. And the first thing you can do is their individual WGI addresses are listed in the manual on page 20, but we've created a WGI steering committee address, but it creates a way for you to talk to them. And that email address is WGICGSC@WGI.org. That's basically WGI Color Guard Steering Committee, WGICGSC@WGI.org. And they will respond to you directly, and you'll hopefully get to meet some of your advocates in that area. All right, I think those are all good things, Dale.
Yeah, that's great, Carl. Thank you. I want to tell you all to stay tuned. We're going to have lots of things coming up over the next few weeks, and as Carl said, through the first few weeks of the season. So stay tuned for a lot more information about a lot more topics. Have great rehearsals, great performances, everyone, and we'll see you down the road. Take
Be
care.
brilliant, everybody.